Hey, my name is Ryan Postel, co-founder of CodeStitch, and in this video, we're going to learn how to make something like this. Um, right away, when I look at this, I see a lot of other developers that they'll just make this the container, and as this gets wider, this just keeps hugging the right edge, and this keeps hugging the left edge. You end up with a big gap, and when you're at like a 4,000 pixel wide screen, this whole thing is just floating to the right, and then this is floating to the left with all this gap in between them. Not ideal. So when I look at this, I immediately see that this is going to be an absolutely positioned element. Like I want to maintain this position. So I take this. This is a, let's say it's 1280 pixels wide. What I need to do is create, so if this is 60 pixels away from the edge, I want this container to also be 60 pixels away from the edge. So if this is 1920, let's subtract 60 or 120. 1920 minus 120, 1800, just as I suspected. So I'm going to make this container 1800 pixels wide, and it's going to be margin auto and center. So that way, um, when it's like 4,000 pixels wide, it's still going to be 1800 pixels wide. It's going to be centered because I'm putting margin auto on it. Let me just, I'm going to draw a little rectangle here just to highlight it. So this is 1800, right? That's centered. So what I want to do is have the container be 18 and then have a wrapper around these guys. And then I'm going to flexbox the container to send this stuff all the way to the right with justify content flex end. And this wrapper is going to have a max width of 1280. And this will always be on the far edge of this box, right? And then this will be absolutely positioned. So what I want to do for this, I believe I will have this image as part of this wrapper. And what's going to happen is if I absolutely position this image group inside of this guy, inside of this group with these guys, I can do height 100%. So it'll always be the 100% of the height of this container. And if I do right 100%, that will make this guy, the right edge of this image will be 100% pushed off away, and it will be flush actually with the edge of this container. So if I can move this over, it will be like this. If I do right 100%, it will be right here. And I'll do a width of like, I don't know, 30, 40 view width units. So we'll always grow wider with the screen size. And then I'll do a calc function to do right 100% plus 64 pixels so that it will be at the edge, and then it will offset by another 64 pixels. And the width, 30 view width or 40 view width, will make sure that this will extend out of the view width. So we put overflow hidden on the main parent so that it clips it if it goes off screen. And no matter how wide the screen gets, this will be growing at a rate of 40% of the screen width. So it will never not be filling off this edge. We want it to spill over a little bit so that as this gets wider, this just keeps going with it and keeps going with it. That's how I plan this out. Um, I don't want this to keep growing. I don't want this to keep growing wider and wider and then have this section keep going over to the right and then this keep going to the left, and then we have all that weird gap for the big screens. It's not going to work. Let me just undo what I did there. So this is how you have to look at these types of sections. We want this to be in its place at all times. We want it to be right here so that the rest of the website that's around it, it doesn't look all weird and janky with it being in a 1200 pixel wide container. And this is just floating way off the heck over to the right for no reason. It's not, it doesn't look good. So we create this big container that's centered, and then we push it to the right of it so that we can create that. So we have the space here, make it even, absolutely position this guy, flush it out, and then push it over. Let's see it in action. So let's go to mobile. Let me first go ahead and put this over here. And let's do the markup for this. So as always, I have my HTML set up. Every section is going to start off with a section tag, and then it's going to have a container inside of it. If your section does not have a heading, which mine does, then you don't use a section tag. Section tags do not belong if you don't have a heading inside of it. If it's like a logo group or something with no headings, you use a div, no heading. And then every section, the parent, I always have a container on the inside. It's even if you don't feel like you need it, I always put one in there so it's easier to manipulate things inside of it. In case I ever do have to go and edit it or add things, it's already there and flexboxed for me so that I can start using it. And then I have my CSS set up this way so that I can collapse it and have nice, neat organization with a nice big tag on top. So let's get started. Right away, we're going to start with a picture element. I'm going to grab my picture tag code from my handy dandy notebook and replace this. So this is in the container. I'm going to consider this a picture. I'm just going to say picture. And so the container is going to be the gigantic width. And we got the CS content. So I got the span, CS topper. What is this? Why choose us? And then we got the H2, CS title. That's going to be this guy. And then CS text. That's going to be you. And then, last but not least, CS button solid. That's how we do it. It's going to be learn more. Well, no, I'm not going to say learn more. I'm going to say get touch. I'm doing this because like this should be get in touch. It's not accessible anymore to say, you know, learn more, read more. It's not very nice for screen readers because when a blind person's running over that, they're like, okay, read more what? Learn more what? What does this button have to do with anything? So Google wants us to be more descriptive with our buttons, so we're just going to do that. So we got the image, we got the content, and now we need the UL, that CS card group. Pretty simple one here. So it looks like we got an icon. I'm going to borrow this image tag. Oops, that should be a UL. I like to make all my cards into unordered lists because it's more accessible and it's more semantic instead of looking at div soup everywhere. We got li CS item, and inside here we have our image tag, and this is, I want to say 24 by 24. Yeah, that's what they usually are. So 24, 24. We're going to do a class of CS icon. We're going to lazy load it, decoding async. Always put decoding async on all your images, and loading equals lazy on all images below the fold. So if you need to load this section right when the website loads, at the very top beginning of the website, you do not put loading equals lazy. Leave it out. And then this is just going to be an icon. So we have another header. We started with an H2. This is our section, right? So every section starts with an H2. We're using another header. This is going to be an H3 now, h3.csh3. I'm going to leave that blank. This is going to be p.cs item text. And this is going to be you. And I think that's all we need. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by 6. 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's just go ahead and put this stuff in here really quick. Yeah, this is the fun part of HTML. It's the copy and paste of the content. And last but not least, air conditioning. And that is our markup. So I'm going to collapse you, and this is going to be my CS content wrapper. I'm going to place this in the wrapper. This wrapper is what's going to be the 1280 pixels wide, and this container is what's going to be 1800 pixels wide, like the big one that we showed. And I think this is how I want to do it. So I'm going to save. I'm going to give us a little more room here. Let's start mobile first, like you should. We're going to collapse. So this is going to be steps. And I use less CSS, the CSS preprocessor. I don't use vanilla CSS. I use less so that I can do some fancy things that you'll see with REM calculations. And I can do some CSS nesting. So right away, we have this picture, but I don't want to put the padding on the entire section. Otherwise, this isn't going to be full width. So no padding right now on the section. I think we put it, let's see. If I put it around content and card group and then remove certain paddings until we get to desktop, where I put the padding back on the section because I want this to be full width. So if I put the padding on the section to create this gap right here, what's going to happen is this is also going to be entrenched in that gap, unless I do something else. I think I have an idea. So let's try it. Let's add padding on it anyway. Padding. We're going to do the section padding that we have in all of our stitches. And you'll see what happens. I go to 360. Oh yeah, I got to add images. So I'm not going to waste your time with that. I'm just going to cut this right now, add my images to the CDN, and add their source tag so that you don't got to watch that. So I'm just going to clip this real quick, and it'll be a nice little 1 second delay. Okay, I'm back. We got some images now, fresh from the CDN, and I got also, like, this is steps. It should be why, like, as in why am I doing this? But you see the problem here, where we have the padding on Y, which is a 16 left and right, 60 top and bottom. The image is overflowing, so let's just calm this thing down for a second. Picture, we're gonna do width 100%, height. Where are you at here? Height is 360, tops out 360, 360. So we're just gonna do 360. Come back. There we go. So this is going to be 360. And I'll explain what I'm doing here with the picture element and why I'm using it. We're going to do display block so that it accepts a height and width value, because picture elements by default are display inline and do not take height and width values. If you ever wonder why that's not working, it's because you're not using display block. So picture elements, image tags, A tags, and spans are all inline elements. And if you want to do things to them, you got to add display block and make them a block level element instead of inline. So this is a display block. We're going to do position relative. See you next one. And the image on the inside, I'm going to grab my code to do my object fit for an image. I'm going to place that in there. So what I'm doing here is the picture element, it allows me to use these source tags so that I can dictate which image I want at which breakpoints. So up until 600 pixels wide, load this image for mobile, and afterwards just load this one instead. And that way I can load smaller images on mobile, have a better page speed score and load times. And what I do with the CS picture element is I give it the width and height that it's supposed to be, and then the image inside of it is absolutely positioned, and we use this neat little property called object fit cover, and this makes the image cover its parent. So whatever height and width this thing is, it will resize it, maintaining its aspect ratio, and center it inside of its parent, and it will stretch and transform it until it fits perfectly all of its parent's height and width. So that way we can put any image we want here in these source tags, and it will automatically resize to fit, so that makes swapping images in and out of our stitches a lot easier. You don't need to make exact crops of the images. Just toss them in there and then they will just work. Like I can put any image in here. It doesn't have to be the exact dimensions. It will just fit to fill the height and width that I tell it to on the parent. So that's why I do that. Now, when we set this up with 100%, I'm going to save. We got a height of auto. That should take care of the weirdness. And you see, this is not exactly, it's not filling up. Like in this area, you see that it's full width and height. There's nothing. So what I got to do is I got to remove, just for now, I got to remove padding top. I got to remove that to 0. And the padding left and right is 16 pixels. So when you have a relatively position, like when you add position relative onto an element, you now have access to the positional styles like top, left, bottom, right. Doesn't have to be position absolute to be able to use those. You can still move them around with the top, left, right, and bottom properties on a position relative element. And to demonstrate, I will remove the width 100%, and I will do left of -16 divided by 16 rem, right of -16 divided by 16 rem. And this is what I was talking about for the syntax in less. It does the calculations for me. So I just do the little parentheses, tell it 360 pixels divided by 16 rem, and this will spit out whatever rem value that is in a CSS sheet that the browser will then read. So that I can change this to whatever I want. It will spit it out and redo the rem calculation. So I don't have to keep doing these. This will be -1 rem. If I do this, this will be -2 rem is what the CSS will say. But the less file is just what I work in, and then it compiles a CSS sheet that the browser then reads. So this is just a lot easier way to work. And if this worked properly, this should work properly. Close, but not there yet. We have width, -16. So let's try if I add a width 100%. Does that still do it? I think if I do this, if I remove this, and instead of 100%, do 100 view width, so it is 100% the width of the screen, that will do it. See what happens if I remove this left value, like this is going to be 100 view width, which is 360 pixels wide, because I am 360 pixels wide right now. So this is right now the full width of the screen, and all I need to do is tell it to go left by the same value of the pixels, which is 16 pixels. So that's how I'm able to do this and keep everything relatively positioned. So I'm just nudging it to the left, and it's still relatively positioned. It's still taking up space and holding its spot in the DOM structure so that it can push push against and be positioned around all the other stuff inside of it. So now I need to deal with the content. So let's find out what the space is. So the space here is 48 pixels and 64. So here's my content. This space is 48. This space is 48. This is 64. So it's 128. So this is, if I added a flex box on the content wrapper, let's go ahead and finish up this picture element. Height and width, 517. So 517, 650. There we go. I always use the desktop version. And this is just going to be a nice house, whatever that is. That's what architecture is now. Just interesting shapes you call a house. So I'm thinking if I want, so Flexbox, I like to use Flexboxes for my gaps. But if I use a Flexbox on the content wrapper, which has these things inside of it, it's going to put a 64 pixel gap between all three of them, which, as you can see, it's not exactly, oh, excuse me, another late midnight here. 48 and 48. This is 64 and, well, maybe. That's 64 and 64. 48 and 48. So I think I can get it. I think I can get away with it. 64 and 64. Yeah. So let's do it. So we're gonna do 64 by 64. Just see its picture. The wrapper is around it, so CS content wrapper. We're gonna do display flex. Flex this thing up. Flex direction is column, so we want it to go column, which is up and down. And our gap is going to be a clamp. Clamp is how you go from a mobile value to a desktop value. So mobile value is 3 rem, or 48 pixels, and I'm going to have you grow at a rate of 7 times the view width unit, and you're going to stop at 4 rem, which is 64 pixels. I just know that because I have to do this so many dang times. 48 pixels to 64 pixels, just to document that. And I think that's all I need to do there. That's going to create the spaces here and here. And the base styles for the topper title text are handled by the core styles for the Code Stitch templates, which is what I'm building this for. I'm building this for the Code Stitch library. So these are going to be already taken care of. Let's get this button out the way. CS content wrapper picture. So let's do CS button solid. And buttons should be real easy. I'm gonna look at this thing here. What is your padding? 48 left and right. So what happens is you don't add a width to your buttons. You just let them be what they are and let your padding create the space between the edges so that when you do change the text, the space around it stays the same and the button gets wider. So on these, it's an A tag, which is an inline element. I'm going to start off with font size. That's going to be 16 divided by 16 rem. Line height is going to be a clamp that is going from 46 divided by 16. So that is going to be clamp 2.875 rem. I'm going to make you grow by 5 view width units. Comma 56 divided by 16 is 3.5 rem. 46 pixels to 56 pixels because gotta make it look nice. Font weight is 700. Text decoration, none, because it is an A tag, so it will want a decoration on it. And because it's an A tag, we also have to tell it text align center, so it centers everything. And then I want to give display inline block so that it can take a height and width and padding and other values. And then we're going to do margin 0 just to reset it to 0. Padding 0, top and bottom, and 48 pixels left and right. So this is top and bottom 0, 0, left and right 48 pixels. That's what this syntax looks like. And you can also have 0, 0, which means top is 0, right is 48, bottom is 0, left is 0. We don't want that right now. And then the background color. So background goes after padding. Background color is var primary. All right. And let's save. That should be pretty good. Let's save. There it is. We forgot our color. Body, text, color, white. That's in our variables. There we go. And let's go ahead and get our CS text. So what I want to do is, let's say you want to add 2 paragraphs. How are you going to handle that? We got to plan ahead for that. So like right now, this is 1 paragraph, but if I created 2, I also want to have consistent spacing between the paragraphs and the button. And you see so these are text elements inside of a group. These are related. So header and paragraph, they are 16 pixels away from each other. If I add another paragraph element, we want it to be 16 pixels away because they are related and part of the same context. This is a button. This is not a paragraph. It's not content. It's a thing. So when we have different visual elements from our related content, if their space is 16 pixels, that means this needs to be double. So this is 32. And that's a nice little quick design rule when you're spacing things out. Keep related things together, decide what you want their space to be, and then whatever is not related to it, that's around it, double it. And that's how you have a nice little visual hierarchy that looks good and not too cramped or close together. So that's why we have 16 pixels and 32. However, we got to put that in CSS. And the way that works is we do CS text. So I want to target the paragraph text. And I'm gonna manually put margin bottom. That's gonna be 16 pixels. Now I'm gonna do and last of type. That and thing is a less thing. So last of type is a pseudo selector. I want to choose the last paragraph element that is of the CS text. I'm gonna choose the last version of it, and I'm gonna say margin bottom. It's gonna be 32 divided by 16 rem. So now when we look at this, we have, I'm going to open this guy up. We have 1 paragraph. When I add a second paragraph, guess what? That is 16 pixels on the bottom. And the last one, last of type, has a 32 pixel. And that's how we do it. I can add infinite amount of paragraphs, and it still maintains that same design system. So that's how we plan ahead for that in CSS. We want to just set the base style for everything and then set the outlier. And now that is programmatically taken care of. So we got that done. We got the button. I want to add a hover state to the button. So grab my notepad. I like to do a little sliding rectangle. So like when you hover over this, I want it to be a little rectangle that slides from the right and fills it in. We do that with pseudo elements. If you need to make shapes or anything, just use a pseudo element. They are so versatile, and it saves from having to make something in the HTML, so it's less stuff that you got to cram in there. So right away, if I use an absolutely positioned element on its parent, I have to tell it position relative and z-index1. Just get in the habit of, if you do position relative on any element, just put a z-index of 1. This prevents any absolutely positioned elements inside of it from going behind it. So like I need to put this behind the button text. So I have to put z-index -1. But if I did that, it's going to go behind its parent, which is the a tag. It's going to go behind it. So this red will show up. And when I hover over it, the pseudo element, while it will animate to be with 100% and create the effect we want, it is hiding behind that red. For some reason, just put z-index of 1. That resets the index. And now this will be behind the text, but on top of the parent. So that's just such a weird thing just to keep in mind. If you're running into position errors or issues and you can't figure out why it's not doing what you want it to do, add that Z index, man. Right there. That's going to be your fix. So background color is going to be black. Its width is going to be 0. And I'm going to transition its width by 0.3 seconds. So we got that. Height is 100%, blah, blah, blah. That looks good. So when we and hover, I want and before to go with 100%. That's it. When I save and I hover, now we have that black little bar, just like that. That's how we do it. Pseudo elements are awesome. I use that stuff on everything. It's like hot sauce, man. So get used to these guys. Get used to using them. Absolutely positioning things with them, and they're a lot of fun. You're gonna find a lot of excuses to use them, and this is one of them. And you got access to it before and an after. So yeah, make good use of them. So we got that set up. Now let's do the cards. So let's set up the cards for mobile. Let's go here. So we're going to use grid, and it's going to be 32 pixels on the row, and looks like it is going to be 16 to 20 pixels in the column. So the column is the up and down. This is a column. See these red things? That's just the design column. That's up and down. Rows are from left to right. So from left to right, the gap is actually 48 pixels. So it looks like it goes from 32 to 48. Why is this? Hold on a second. 48, and then you go to 40 here. I do not accept. This will now be 40. Just unnecessary. Wholly unnecessary to have that. 48, 40. If it's 40 on the big one, it's going to be 40 on the inside. That's just, I like consistency. So let's go ahead and set these guys up. .cs card group, and it's going to be the UL. So let's reset the margin and padding. Margin 0, padding 0, because ULs have inherent padding and margin attached to them. Padding 0. Now we're going to do display grid, and I'm going to set up my template columns. So I want to repeat. I want 12 columns, each one fractional. The fractional is like one equal part. So however wide this container gets, we created 12 separate fractions. So these fractions will grow the same width as the box. It's just they're equal. It's in 12 equal sections. That's what we're doing here. And now I want the column gap to be a clamp of 1 rem. Yeah, that's the up and down. So 1 rem, we're going to go at 2.5 U width, and it's going to be 1.25 rem, because that's going to take us from 16 pixels to 20 pixels. And then I'm going to copy and paste this. We're going to do a row gap. So the row is the horizontal gap. That's going to be 2 rem to 40 pixels, which is 2.5 rem. This will be 32. And it's a good old 40. So we got that set up. And now we do the CS item, which the first thing we do, because it's the list item, we have to reset the list style, which is none. And I got, so what are we working with here? Let's remove these guys. You're in my way. And we have the image, H3 and P. So let's just find out what their spacing is. It's 24, so that's 24 pixels. And this is 16 and 16. So I think what I'm going to do, right away, I'm going to display, flex it, flex direction, column. And when we're in a column, to push things left or right in a column, you use align items. So I do align items, flex start, which is to the left. And then I also want to set up text align left. So I want to text align everything to the left, and I'm going to push everything to the left. I'm not going to put any gaps on here because it's not consistent. So we got that together. There's no There's no borders or colors or weird things to get that going. So yeah, we're good there. .cs icon. We're going to do width of 24 pixels, height of auto, and display block because images are display inline by nature. So we got to set display block so we can use the width attribute because if it's inline, it will not listen to you. That is why we have a width now. Width and height. Height is auto because if I change this image to like another one that is like, if it's, because this is 24 by 24 in the dimensions here, but if I put in an image that is 24 by 34, if I set to be 24 pixels wide and tall, it will be squished from the top vertically because it's trying to fit that predetermined height. So if I just set width to 24 pixels and height to auto, it will always be 24 pixels wide, but the height will be whatever it needs to be to maintain the original aspect ratio of the image. So that is the more responsive way to add your height and width attribute for an image like this, like icons, where they can get swapped out at any time and you want it to still not be squished. Just put a width of whatever it is that you want it to be, and then a height of auto, and let the rest figure it out. And we have a margin bottom here of 24 pixels. So we do margin bottom, 24 pixels. And again, like if you didn't put display block, none of this would work because inline elements like an image they don't take margins and paddings. So you got to add display block if you want an inline element like a span, image tag, a tag, or picture tag to have values like height, width, transform, padding, margin. Add display block. If you run into that problem, that's like, why is this not doing it? I told it to be this width. Well, add display block. Tell it what to do. Become a block element and hang out with the rest of us. So then we got you are 20 pixels, and on desktop you are 25. So the CSH3 or CSH3, you will be font size. That's a clamp. We're going to go from 1.25 rem, which is 20 pixels. We're going to grow at a rate of 2.4 view width and 1.565 rem. That is your ending point because that is 20 pixels to 25 pixels. I just have that memorized. That is taking up space in my brain that I just can't let go of. So line height is going to be 1.2 m is what I have for all of my headings. Font weight is going to be set at 100. And I think we need a margin is 0 because all headers have a margin on them by nature. And then we're going to do color is var header color. Come on. Var header color. And this itself is going to have a margin. Let's see. So we have this line, right? There's a number of ways we can do this. We can use a pseudo element. We can use a span inside of it. Personally, I prefer to make, so we have this gap here. So we're going to say padding bottom, 16 divided by 16 rem. And then margin bottom. So if I treat this as the H3, this is its padding bottom. So now this has a border of that color. So now I can say border bottom 1 pixel solid and blah, and that will create the line. And now to create this space, 16 pixels, we're going to go, okay, so that's top, left, and bottom is going to be 16 pixels. And I don't need to put the extra 0 for left. This is just implied that it's going to be 0 by this syntax. So what I did here, padding is how you push against things from the inside. So this is the H3. I want space on the inside of the H3 so I can push against the things inside of it and still have this border bottom attached to it, right? And now margin is how you space away from things around you, outside of the element. So I want to create 16 pixels of space outside and around this element. And so that's why I have a padding bottom of 16 to create that space on the inside. So I can have that padding bottom right here. And then I use margin bottom 16 to push from the outside and create this gap. So this is 16 pixels here, and you are 16 pixels there. Wonderful. I am going to do CS item text. So your font size is var body font size, and then your line height is 1.5 like everything else. You have no margin. We got to reset that because all p tags have a default margin. Color is going to be var body text color. Come on, keep doing that. Font size, line height, we got color, we got margin reset. I think that's all we need on that guy. So when I save and go over here, save, get rid of those. So now you see we have the space. See the green is the padding and the orange is the margin, and that little yellow line, that's the border. So that's how I created that. That's how you use margin and paddings to create the spaces that you need inside and around you. It's like there's 3 different ways to do this, but the easiest way to do it with the least amount of hassle is to just attach everything to the H3. Like if you tried to make this into a span, that's another HTML element you got to add to it, and then you got to add margin top and bottom to that, and it's extra. And then you have to write CSS for it as well. That's extra lines of CSS. Or I can cover this in 3 lines of CSS and knock it out for everybody. The only thing we're missing here is we have a grid, but we have all of these elements are still being placed horizontally. So I have to tell it there's 12 columns to work with. So I want you grid column span 12. I want you to span all 12 columns. And that's what's going to happen. So they're going to all fill in this space here. This is, see, I'm not going to count this because that's a waste of time, but there's 12 columns here and it's spanning all of them. And that's what's happening. So real quickly, we just, we created everything already. So this is mobile. So mobile's done. Let's go ahead and zoom out. And let's check out what we're doing on tablet. So on tablet, looks like this is wide, wide, wide. And then at 766 or 768, we are going to go in 3 rows. So what I want to do first, though, like if I grow this, grow this, grow this, you see how wide and weird this gets? So I want to set, I want this to get wider, but I don't want this to get wider. So let's set CS content wrapper. I'm going to do CS content. Let's put the 6. I'm going to put the CS picture at the bottom because that's just where I like to put it, because you never have to touch it again. But the most important things at the top are going to be your CS content and everything else. That's CS content and .cs card group. Let's do a max width of 584. And make sure your margin is auto so that you center yourself. CS card group, max width. Let's set width 100%. Card group. Oh, that's right, because I set margin to auto, or to margin to 0. So if you go to card group, margin is 0. So I need to reset this 0 auto. There we go. So this is why I'm doing it, because if you just let them stretch and go wide, kind of looks bad. So I have like a hard mobile media query container size to end at 584. I found that to be a sweet spot, so that this is fine, this is fine, get a little too wide, and then we stop, so that on like on those in betweens, like between 600 and 760, this has a set width. It looks fine. It doesn't look too stretched out or weird or messy. So I like to stop it here. And then what's going to happen is this max width, I just need to document that it changes. Let's see if it changes anywhere. I always want this to be 100%, 100%, 100%. This is 782, 944. So I'm going to change it to 100%. Changes to 100% at tablet. Just letting anybody else know that's going to work on this. Like, okay, it's 584 now, but at tablet we're going to change it to 100%. And let's go ahead and move to tablet. So we go to 768. I'm going to zoom out, and this is our tablet right now. So I got to do CS content. Let's get these guys out of the way. CS content, comma, CS card group, and your max width is going to be 100%. Okay, and I want the CS item. I want you to be, so if we look at the grid, it's 12 columns, right? But we have 4 items, or 3 items. So that means 12 divided by, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that means you count them right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So we're going to do CS item, grid column, span 4 columns. And now it's going to be in a nice little grid of 4. And what's cool is like I can add more to this if I wanted to. 1, 2, 3, and the grid's gonna keep going. So that's why I like CS Grid. Nice and easy. So we got that set up. I think we're being limited by the. I have a max width on these guys in the core styles, but it looks like they're full width over here. So I'm gonna go into mobile, and we're gonna do CS text. Widths go above margin, so max width 100%. And I'm going to do that for the CS title. CS title, max width 100% of the container. So we have that. And once again, this looks good. This is fine. I think we have all the spacing we need around everything. So tablet is good. That's all we have to do for tablet. So now let's go to small desktop, which is 1024. See why mobile first is easier? I just add a couple things on tablet and we're good. That's why I always recommend mobile first development. You toss everything in the mobile query with clamps and stuff so that it grows from its mobile to its desktop. So that all you have to do in tablet and desktop is just do some rearranging. That just makes your code a lot easier to work with. I'm gonna say it's a lot easier to let things grow into a bigger space than to cram them into a smaller one. It's not very intuitive. So let's look at desktop. Desktop, not a lot of changes. So we're gonna keep writing, and then at some point we got to switch to here. So let's just grow this and see at what point it starts getting weird. So I think at 1024, this is where we're at. And I think I'm going to stop it at 944. So that's what I'm going to do. Instead of 100%, it's going to be 944 pixels because I don't want it to look weird. So I'm going to do that. There we go. So now we have some space to work with instead of it being so wide and weird. We can grow this and not. I'm just going to let it be. And at 13, well, no, because I want 1280. But that looks weird. So I gotta break it up. So let's break y'all up. Okay, you guys are going to have your own styles. So the content, I kind of want you to stop at, let's say 750, you're done. And then if I look at here on large desktop, you're stopping at 369. So it changes to 369 pixels at large desktop. So you're gonna stop at 750, but at large desktop we're gonna cap you at 369. This card group is going to go to 584, and then you change to 1280 pixels at tablet. All right. So we're at tablet, and I have to remove you. So only you are that. And now we have this problem, which is fine. It's a flexbox. All I have to do is take the wrapper. So this is the column. So if this is the CS content wrapper, and right now everything is trying to be centered. So I want you to not be centered. There's two ways to go about this. One, I can do align items flex start. And then the other, but this is not working because margin auto is offsetting it. I have margin auto on here, which is centering it. So I only want margin auto on the right then. So I think if I just do 0 and then zero top, auto on the right, and 0 on bottom and left. Well, actually, work. So what's happening here is the CS wrapper, the CS content wrapper, it's being wide, but this is stopping at 1280. This is stopping at 750, and the problem is that as this gets wider, you see if we want this to be centered with it, it's got to be the same max width and be centered. So in order to do that, what I need to do is make this 1280. So that's going to be 1280 wide. Again, your margin is going to be back to auto. And then instead, max width here is going to be the 750. So I'm going to add the max width to the title and text. So that, see what's happening here is I instead made the CS content have the max width of 1280 to match the card group below it and a margin auto to center it. And inside of it, to make sure that these guys aren't way over here and looking weird, I gave them the max width, so that the text elements inside of it have the max width instead of the parent container. So if I look at this, we want it to be 944. So you know what? I'm just going to do 944 because that's what it's supposed to be. 944. There it is. There it is. There's a 944, and they're centered, and we have this image. What would normally happen is you just have an image that is cropped to fit these dimensions. We're just not going to work with that. So we're just going to let that ride. So that's that. We're going to let that go. And then once we get here, I think 1800 pixels, I think we can start this. So let's do a media query for 1800 pixels. We have tablet, Small desktop, didn't have to use it. So we are going to remove you. Go to large desktop. You're going to be 1800. And what is that divided by 16? 1800 divided by 16 is 112.5 rem. Okay, it's going to be fun now. So, let me see. Let's just do 2000. Zoom out as much as we can. Okay, and let's think about from the most outer that we can. So we want to bring the padding back. So we want the padding top and bottom on, whoops. We want the padding top and bottom back on the section. So let's reset it. Padding is bar section padding. And that's what's nice about CSS is it's cascading. If I reset this, if I just redeclare the padding variable, it's going to override that padding top 0 that we put here in mobile. It's going to override it because I'm adding it again. So it's looking, it's like, okay, right now padding top is 0. And then it goes down the line. It's like, wait a minute, padding is now reset, which this also covers padding top and bottom, left, right, etc. So when we do that, when we save, we're overriding it and we're bringing it back. And now I want the CS picture. I'm gonna take you out of the picture with display none. I'm just gonna hide you for now. I'm gonna deal with you later. Right now I want to work with CS content wrapper. So plan this out. CS container, that is 24. Did I add the... Yeah, I didn't add the container. CS container on mobile, you're going to be width 100%, max width 1800 divided by 16 rem, margin auto to center. And then we're going to just, we're going to display flex. And it's going to be justified content center. And I think that should be fine. Let's look at mobile, see what's happening. Not liking it. So if I remove this, now it's happy. I do this, now it's not. And I think it has to do with the flex box. So if I look at this picture element here, with 100%, let's do, so if I, wait a minute, where's my padding? Where's my padding here? Here's the container, here's the Y, here's the container, with 100%. So, why are you misbehaving? Do I gotta add box sizing here? That didn't work. If I remove width, does that work? That doesn't work. If I remove this flex box, does that work? Okay, so it doesn't like the flex box. Interesting. Very interesting. So, it doesn't like the flex box. So let's go ahead and remove said flex box, since it doesn't play nicely on mobile. We still have our margin, whatever. So this is at least centered now that we have our 1800 pixels wide. And got CS container. Since I don't have to worry about the picture element now we can do display flex. and justify content flex start or flex end. So I want to push it to the end here. You see what we're doing now? Where like this is the container. This is 1280 pixels wide. See what's happening? The container is this big, and this is being pushed to the right of it. So we got that. And now on the wrapper, see its content wrapper, we're going to do a flex direction of row. So now we're going to go side by side. And do you have a max width on you? We don't. So let's set max this content wrapper. Max width 1280 divided by 60. So we're going to cap that and CS content. You are an interesting one. That's right, because I need to reset you. What was it, 369, I think it was? You need to be smaller. Let me see. Let's double check that. 369. Dang, you're fine. All right. I get that out of my system. So this is 369. Why does that not look as good? Is this too font weighty? Is the gap too much? That's not, no, it's not too much. 369. Okay, oh, also, you see what's happening here? This is not on two lines, and this is not on two lines, so we have a weird positioning here. So on tablet, what I'm going to do, so the logic here is I want this guy, I want the CSH3 to be as tall as it needs to be. So we have this gap here at the bottom. How do we fix this? It's actually pretty darn easy. CSH3, we're just going to do height 100%. And now what's happening is this H3 is going to try and be as, as tall as the entire section. However, the P tag will be filling it up. So if these guys go to two lines, it's going to create extra space, but the P tags are all taking up the same space. So that means if it's trying to be 100% height of the CS item here, that means all that extra space that's there, it will now fill. And since if you make sure that these paragraphs are all the same height, right, then it will always be mathematically perfect. So that's the idea here. We're using height in a flex box to position things now. It's not just about margins and paddings. You can use height strategically to create these rules for keeping things even. So by making the CH3 to be height 100%, it is trying to fill in the remaining gap inside of the CS item, and that's why it is now perfectly aligned. So I'm looking at this now. Let's bring back the CS picture, because I think we're getting pretty close to what we need right now. So now we're going to do position absolute. We're going to do height 100%. Width, let's start off with the 30 view width, right? Position, we're going to do top 0. Right is going to be 100%. No, we got to do the clamp or the calc. Calc is 100% minus 4 rem or plus 4 rem. And I think I'm going to run into a problem here because the padding is on the section parent, but the picture is being absolutely positioned on the CS wrapper. So if I want it to work the way I want it to work, what I need to remove the padding top and bottom from the section tag. And then inside the content wrapper, I'm going to do padding var section padding. So I want to take the section padding, but I don't want padding left and I don't want padding right. I just want the top and bottom. That's part of this variable, which is, if we look at the core styles, so top and bottom is this clamp, which is the 60 pixels to 100, and then left and right is 1 rem. So what's happening here is I want that 16 pixels. I want that 1 rem left and right. But I don't want the padding top and bottom. So I am taking what's in the variable already and I'm overwriting what I don't want. And I'm doing the same thing here. I want the padding top and bottom from var padding, and I don't want the padding that's left and right. So the reason I'm doing this is because if you change the section paddings, like maybe in your design you want to do 120 pixels instead of 100 pixels on desktop, if you change that, then these variables will also change with it. So that's why I keep reusing it and overwriting, because if you do change it at any point, it will still work. And this will be 120 pixels top and bottom, or this will be 120 pixels top and bottom. Maybe you change the gutter from 16 pixels to 20 pixels. So now the gutter, or the left and right border bumpers, will be 20 pixels because it's matching whatever is this section padding. So every section padding for every section in your site will be the same. And we're just using that as a base for our style. And then we're taking out of the variable what we don't want. That way we can maintain consistency. So when I do this, I'm adding the padding top and bottom on the CS wrapper, which is this. And since the CS picture element is being positioned relative to the CS wrapper, that padding is part of the CS wrapper. So it will now be at the top of the padding and at the bottom. Otherwise, it would just stop. The image would stop here, like right at the top of the CS wrapper. That's its top value. That's where it would stay. And we don't want that. We want it to actually be on the outside, just like this, right? We need this space, this gap. So we need to create that space inside of the parent so that the absolutely positioned child can have a top value that brings it to the top here. So if we go ahead and save, that's essentially what's happening here. Something is off. I think it's because I am missing position relative. So you see what's happening. This CS picture is looking to its parent, which is CS content wrapper, and it's saying, "Are you my mommy?" And the wrapper is saying, "Get lost, kid," because it does not have position relative on it. So it's looking to the CS container now. It's like, container, do you have position relative on you? Are you my mommy? And then the container is like, I don't like kids. And so it goes to the section container. It's like, hey, do you have position relative on you? Are you my mommy? And then the second container is like, get out of here, kid. So now the next thing that has position relative is the body and HTML tag, which is why this is now being positioned absolute. Like right here, this picture element is being positioned absolute to the HTML and the body tag. Like this is just going to keep extending infinitely because it is attached to the height of the HTML element. So to fix this, we have to make the CS content wrapper into a parent. So we're going to impregnate it with a position relative, the index 1. Now it's got a child that's going to start behaving with it. So now you see the padding top and bottom, how it creates that space. Now it's at the top and the bottom. So we just have to figure out, oh, that's right, because the CS picture has a left value of -1 rem from mobile, and that's negating the right value that I gave it. So I wanted the picture to do this value for the right, but I have a left value as well, and it's contradicting the right. So I have to reset it to, left auto. I have to basically say whatever left was, just make it whatever it was before, automatic. And now the left won't be confusing the browser. So we took that out of the equation, and now the right value can be used. And it looks like this worked perfectly. So this, let's see if I get away with 30 for demonstration purposes. Okay, so this is what's happening. This is 20 view width, right? As I grow the screen, you notice that the picture element also grows with it, but you see it doesn't fill this edge gap here. So that's why I'm telling it to be 30. If I do 30, it's not quite filling it all. Let's do 35. Pretty darn close. So when I close this, see it's growing. It's always going to stay whatever the width is to the edge. So this is like just over the edge here, and it's overflowing. And to prevent any overflow issues on the hero section, like on the main section, we just add overflow hidden. And now anything that overflows this section, if I right like this, whatever overflows it outside of the screen will be clipped, and it doesn't cause any overflows or scroll bar issues, etc. So this is working. Let's see what happens at 3500. And you see it's just it's got a little gap there, and you know what? I think that's fine. I don't think it needs to be like perfect. It probably even makes sense to stop it at some point, because if you're looking at it from a large computer, this is just going to get stretched out indefinitely. So let's try, what's the width here? This is like 1200 pixels. Let's just stop you. Let's stop you at 900 or 1000. Let's stop you at 1000 before it gets real crazy, because at 2800, I think at 3000 I want it to be there. So let's do 1100. I think it's about right. Yeah, we'll keep that. So this is working as intended. So you see that this is the container class. It's 1800 pixels wide, and it is centered in the screen. And this is not affecting it at all. So it all worked out exactly as planned. This CS content wrapper is being flexboxed at the end of this margin auto centered container at 1800 pixels wide. This picture element is absolutely positioned to this CS content wrapper, but its right value is telling it to be at 100%. Like if I remove this 4 rem, it would just right 100% places its right edge at the leftmost edge, because it's basically saying right 100% of the width. So if this was right 0, 100% is right here, right on the edge. So then we add that 4 to offset it even more, and that's how we create our space. So that's a nice creative way of using absolute positioning to get what you want and still leaving everything else relatively positioned so that it doesn't look stupid. It's like if this container didn't have that max width, if we turn it off, everything, you see how this goes all the way to the right? If I didn't have this positioning on here, this would also be all the way to the left. That's not responsive. Like on bigger screens, there's just this huge gap between them, and it's not going to work, which is why we had to have this max width so that we can center it, right? So we can center it within the frame, because this is exact. It's to a T what is shown in this frame. It's just we did a little extra measurements, 60 left and right minus the 1920, which gave us our 1800 pixel wide container, which is about right here for the left edge. Push this to the right, absolutely position this, height 100%, right 100%, offset by 64 pixels, with a view width unit width and a max width, and there you have it. That's how you do a section like this. So now when I'm QAing this, I want to know what happens when I add content. So if we go to CS content, let's say we added an extra paragraph here. Let's see how it responds. So right away, I can see that this is responding to it, which is great. Let's jump this to 2000 pixels just so I can get a good look at it. Pop this down. Now, I could be happy with this, and I think I am. I don't think I want these to be centered because that would just look weird. So let's just remove this. And I think that's fine. And then if we add extra link or extra list items, 1, 2, 3. Whoops. That's not where they're supposed to go. Right here. 1, 2, 3. Then this, yeah, see what happens when I add too many of these guys. Now this is centered. And you see that looks weird. It's weird. You want these to be aligned at the top. So I need to take CS wrapper, CS content wrapper, where are we at? Tablet. We go horizontal here. So flex direction row. So excuse me, yawn. Late night over here. We're in a row flex box, so that means it's horizontal, left and right. So we want things to be positioned up and down, which is vertically. So when you're in a row position that's horizontal, the align items is now the vertical positioner. So I want you to be at the start, which is up at the top. However, what's happening here is CS content has margin auto, and margin auto also affects the top and bottom in a flex box. So while we're trying to tell it to go to the top, this margin auto is overriding it, because in a flex box, margin auto means everywhere. Whereas margin auto without flex box just means left and right. But when you put it in a flex box, it basically is saying margin auto everywhere. So content, I think margin goes under width. So margin top, we need to remove that auto. Margin top is 0. And that's how we put it back up there. So if you ever run into Flexbox problems and you're wondering why the heck is this not going to the flex start, double check that you don't have a margin. Like when I hover over this, you could clearly see there was a margin top. You saw the orange. So that's telling you that something is creating that margin. And that margin is coming from this auto. So by resetting it to 0, we're telling it, all right, don't do that. And it pushes it to the top. And I'm looking at this. Are these all aligned? Yeah, these are all aligned. Everything's aligned. Everything's feeling good. So that's how we do that. And I want to move these guys back. So it looks like everything is responsive. And that's it. We're done. That wasn't so bad. So let's go ahead and start from the top. So we got the mobile version. We grow it, grow it, grow it. And I'm seeing something weird here. That's weird. Let's see that. Why are you doing that? This stops at 584. It's because on mobile, I have it set to 1280. So we're going to stop you at 584. And then we're going to do 1280 at desktop. Yeah, that's gonna be 584. So that's gonna stop there. Okay, that looks better. That's much better. That's where we do QA. Grow, grow, grow. Okay, now we got weird. So at tablet, that's where we want it to grow. So instead of large desktop, we're gonna say tablet. And see, collapse the mobile and then open up tablet. That is why I have my CSS set up the way I have it, so that I can collapse the mobile, go right to tablet, and let's see, the CS content max width 1280 divided by 16 rem. Save. We have that. And now here, changes to 369 pixels at large desktop. It's changing again because that's just how it has to be. So now we got that. That is playing nicely. We zoom out, zoom out. This is stopping at 944 as we wanted. Let's grow, and then this is growing, and then at about 1800 is where we can fit it. That's where we go here, and now we grow it, and it just fits. Like I can take this, I can grow it infinitely, and you see how this is staying centered. It's like, imagine the rest of the website is in the center of the website, is in the center of the screen here. That's what you want. You don't want these floating off infinitely to the right. We want it to stay with the rest of the site, and that's why we set it up the way we did. And if we go all the way, eventually we're going to reach that gap, that stop gap where this stops growing, because at that point it's just unnecessary. And that's how we do it. So put that one in the books, call that one done. But yeah, that's how I plan things. When I look at a design, I always just look at it in terms of flex boxes. You know, how do I have to place these things so that they can be moved around? So like I saw when I saw this, like there is no extra container in here telling me to put it in one. I had to infer it. We're like, okay, if I want this to be this and stay here in this position, I need to have something that's centered and that is equidistant. And that's why I came up with the idea of 60 pixels left and right. And I invented a container to be 1800 pixels wide, right? And then I surmised that, okay, I want these guys to be grouped together, which is where the CS content wrapper came from, so that it can be flexboxed to the right all the way to this new container that I created, so that it can stay centered. And that's how I saw it. That's how I visualized this, so that it can behave the way I want it to behave. Because I wanted this to be centered and stay in its position, but this is off-centered. So if this is off-centered, how do you keep something off-centered centered? You place it inside of another container that is centered, and then off-center it in that container. And if that made sense to you, you are now a CSS expert. If not, just rewatch that part again until it makes sense. But that's how it went in my head, and that's what I'm here to do. That's why I'm making these videos, to explain my thought process and to kind of improve your thought process, is to start thinking a little more creatively and not just looking at what's there, but thinking about what could be there and what you could add in the code, how you could add an extra div or a sacrificial div to maneuver and manipulate things. So it's not always going to be in front of you, and it's just thinking about everything as a box and how these boxes are pushing against each other. That's how we do it. So another awesome, riveting video. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you picked up something along the way. And I'm gonna get cracking on the rest of these, and I'm gonna make a couple more videos, probably a lot more, because it's kind of fun. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed Code Stitch, and I'll see you in the next one.